Some few may still come hither seeking counsel, so I shall remain to aid them as need be. If thou art needed elsewhere, do not let me detain thee. As a matter of fact, I was hoping you might check on Elise. Last I saw, she was struggling to carry an enormous pile of boxes out of the west gate. I could go myself, but we know whose help she's less like to scorn. Not to mention that much of my misfortune, I can think of several other things I ought to be doing. Until later.
In uncertain times, naught but the simplest words of wisdom will suffice. That which lives is destined to die. Love leads to loss. Every beginning has an end. Treasure every moment, every step of your descent.
Suddenly the tweets about number of times cried in Endwalker suddenly making a bit more sense because that's been happening a lot lately. Squeal, squeak. Autumn, what are you doing out here? Recovering from emotional trauma. Alright. Oh, you're helping with the crates. Wonderful, you can put that there with the others. You have my gratitude, but how did you come to be involved in this? That's what I think to think as well. If you're wondering why we were tasked with bringing these boxes to Aporia to begin with, so was I. Turns out that this is the base of operations of sorts. Those with final say as to what is included in the ship's manifest can be found here. Father included, I suspect. Oh, hey, that should be everything. You carried all that at once. Are you trying to injure yourself? Oh, hush, they're lighter than they look, and not everyone has your delicate arms. I suppose you should let someone know what we finished. And Theo Paladin is in the courtyard. We can report to him. Why don't you come along? You should get credit for your assistance at least, considering where we are. We might even learn something interesting. I mean, at the very least, there's something to attune to. Gods, it never ends, does it? What can I do for you? We brought samples from Shirley and Hamlet, Series 110. The crates are by the entrance. Aw, thank you. I expected one of my colleagues, but we are dreadfully short-handed. Just a moment. You are Fortuna's children, are you not? Alphino and Elise, at your service. You're well acquainted with father, I take it. Quite. I've been friends with your parents since our days at the studium. I remember when you were yay high, waddling hither and thither. Clearly, it's been some time since we met. It's good to see you again, wielding your father's newest, no less. You knew our parents when they were young? What were they like? Pray, spare no detail. I should like nothing more than regale you, unless I am meant to be in charge here and reads a paperwork month for submission. You can help with that, in exchange for stories about parents would never willingly divulge, of course. Very well, there have to be 3 sets of documents in need delivery, so how about each of you take one? At least it's just like, give us the juicy deets. Spill the tea. Wait right there. Oh, there's one. Oh, there they are. We return with not a scrap of paperwork remaining on our persons, you will note. Now spill the tea. You both have my thanks, and my apologies for sending you on an errand far below your ambitions. Why, even as a babe, you struggled out of your swaddling clothes and... That's quite enough of that, thank you. It was compromising stories of our parents that we asked to hear, to reiterate. Of course, of course. I know your father for so long, I must have something. Well, as you know, part of why the Leverrier name earns so much respect in Charlie is your family's storied history. You too can trace your ancestry directly to those who came aboard Neocreft's hope, a lineage few can claim. I never thought much of it myself. It's also our forebears founded our nation. They were simply there when it happened. Nevertheless, it's been traditionally a point of pride. 'Tis why Neocreft's pronouncement, renounce the ways of war and pursue enlightenment through knowledge and reason, has ever been our family's creed. Until your grandfather's died, aye. Archon Louis Saul looked not to Neocreft's words, but his deeds. He asserted, in defiance of his peers, that choosing to save the great and the small from the rising tide was the true mark of our founder's virtue. Perhaps it was his expertise, his knowledge of ancient prophecy and the fall of civilizations that led him to conclude that to eschew conflict at every turn was to consign mankind to its doom. There will be conflict and calamity will follow, thus. To ignore the plight of those one might conceivably save is not wisdom, it is indolence. You remember his words well. Indeed. Oh, so he taught them that, so I learned... Alright, never mind, I take back my words. You remember his words well. Indeed, Archon Louis lived by that personal creed and used every means at his disposal to bring succor to those in need, Charlatan or no. No one loved and admired your grandfather more than his son. Yet Fortunato could not reconcile Louis' deeds with the philosophy of their forebears and his peers, philosophy in which he believed so fervently, yet made a pariah of his father. Fortunato agonized over this contradiction for much of his life. God's father. A son may carry his father's blood, but his choices are his own to bear. Is it not always thus? God knows Fortunato is a cranky old goat, but I'm sure you butt heads often enough. Even so, you must know that you are constantly in his thoughts, every moment of every day. And that's not an exaggeration in the slightest. You should have seen him when you were born. Barely recognizable he was, with a kind of dumbfounded grin I had not seen since he took fancy to your mother. He was practically skipping when he told me the news. Take my word for it, he loves you to an embarrassing degree. But he's also frustratingly single-minded. Once he's decided that a given action is for the best, he will stay the course no matter who or what opposes him. A profoundly annoying habit when you're on the other end of it, as I'm sure you will agree. I'll say. Thank you for the insight. When next we meet our parents, I shall mention that we spoke. Try not to get me into too much trouble now. I need the forum on my side. Speaking of which, I ought to be getting back to work. I have to make sure those specimens you brought make it to the proper places, or the cranky old goat will have my hide. We can speak again later. Hail, you three. Oh. Hello, you one. Graha! Surely Coco hasn't driven you out of the fort already. For better or worse, no. However, he has sent me a test that requires more than my single pair of hands, and here you are. I could use at least one of you, but I won't inject more. Unfortunately, Alizé and I have prior commitments, and we have delayed too long as it is. What about you, Autumn? Can you spare the time? Yeah, sure, why not? Perfect. This shouldn't take long. In the event that our, and I quote, promised heap of adamantite falls right out of the bloody sky and into my lap, Master Coco wishes to be ready to put the proverbial hammer to the anvil at a moment's notice. To fabricate these parts, however, he needs the flames of Coco's forge to burn hotter. He sent me to increase the amount of aether being funneled through his furnaces. The flow of fire-aspected aether in labyrinths is regulated by an elemental reactor south of here, to which I have borrowed the key. That adjustment will require 2 people to carry out safety, but I can explain the process when we arrive. This is where we part then. We'll see in the Charlatan Hamlet once the adamantite arrives, if not before. The reactor is housed within this facility. I'll be the one to go inside and adjust the fire aether output. When I do, a rather large amount of water-aspected aether will issue from the vent at the top. I expect this to attract at least a few elementals, which we would both rather not be drawn into the reactor itself, trust me. Can I ask that you put down any that draw too near? They'll pose little trouble to you, I'm sure. I shall slap them silly! Did everything go smoothly out here? Yeah, had a friend. They were red. I thought as much. No major complications to speak of inside either. And the water aether appears to be venting properly. I expect that Coco will have seen a difference in the forge flames by the time I return. Since I have you, there was another matter I thought to discuss with you. Nothing terribly important, merely something I've been considering. Part of this I shared with everyone, yet you and only you have been Elpis. As we have established, refined adamantite is a product of Aleg of the Empire's twilight years. In fact, it was a material which saw much use as part of Allegan's efforts to extend beyond the bounds of the world, Dalamud of course being the most prominent. Of those who would push further, expand Allegan's empire to encompass the heavens and the stars above, perhaps the greatest was the infamous technologist Amon. Ha ha! We're bringing him up again. Do you remember his life as Hermes? I believe he had his own reasons. There is no evidence to suggest he retained memories of his former life. He only joined the Ascian side once the Empire was all but dust, as you know. If not his memory, though, what drove him to pursue the idea with such fervor? This may seem far-fetched, but what if souls like minds have a personality, so to speak, a natural disposition towards which they are inclined? We know with relative certainty it was the gross decadence and inexorable decline of Alec that moved Amon to resurrect Emperor Xandi. The Empire's people spoke lightly of death and destruction, experimenting on those they deemed beneath them to fill the emptiness in their hearts. In facilitating Xandi's return, Amon provided these languid souls with the means to free themselves from the mire of their own indolence. Or would have, had not Xandi been convinced by his own death that life itself was meaningless. Amon's desire for his countrymen to conquer the heavens could only be a means to the same end, to instill the people with a new purpose. Like Hermes before him, Amon was appalled by how those lived around him, but could never bring himself to believe that those lives were devoid of meaning. And both of them sought that meaning, that hope, in the distant stars. Such is my theory, anyway. A game theory! Ultimately, it's the consequences of their actions which matter. Their motives are of no moment, and yet... To reach those stars on wings of adamantite, to travel to the ends of creation and beyond, the promise of hope everlasting. That much I do understand. Yeah, you of all people would. But enough music for now. Why don't we see how Coco is getting on? Bonds of adamantite. Oh, and we're done here too. Possibly. I do trust you to deliver on your promise. I do, only... I hate waiting! I want the adamantite and I want it now! We share your impatience, I assure you. There's really nothing we can assist with in the meantime. I wish this sitting about's unbearable. Pity the forum's frowns on recreational explosions. Well, so long as I can't prove it was premeditated, get on you. I have mistakes to make. Oh no. In that case, I should go and return the key to the reactor. I'll have one more look to make sure that nothing has gone wrong, unintentionally or otherwise. I'm certain there are better uses for your time, however. I shall join you in the Charlie and Hamlet anon. If you wait here, your companions are bound to tune up sooner or later. No cutscene warning? Oh no, not this song.
All set, I take it?
We finished what we could. Delivered supplies, tracked down escaped animals. Trivial tasks as they may be.
That's enough, don't you think? If there was anything more important still undone, that would be a problem in itself.
The vessel is essentially ready for departure. All that remains is to load the final batch of supplies and see everyone on board. Once we've readied the ether burner, that is.
Ah, had a feeling we might find you all here.
Our consultations with the Loperites, too, have run their course. Pleased I am to say that our researchers' concerns have, for the most part, been allayed, though some insist on making adjustments to the very end. For their part, Livingway and her peers have graciously offered to stay and keep the people company, lest any lingering queries go unanswered.
All that remains is to wait for the refined adamantite.
Alphano, are you there? It's me, Cryo. Your special delivery has arrived. Round up everyone and come to the harbor at once.
Hooray!
Speak of the devil. Let us go at once.